And thank you so much for making the time. Before we get into the conversation about Spain and COVID-19, you're not only an ambassador but also an activist, and I'd like to ask you what your thoughts are about the emerging global reports of the rise in gender-based violence cases as a result of the lockdowns across the world. It's part of our focus today, and I'm wondering what your thoughts are on this.
I think thank you very much, Desiree, and thank you very much for having me. I think it is very sad and unfortunate that violence against women is again on the rise. Not just on the rise outside there, because the lockdown in all the countries means that you must be out of the streets and you go into your house thinking that there is safety and protection inside your house, only to be faced with a violent partner who is angry, who is frustrated, who is aggrieved, who is fearful, and also just has insecurities about the lockdown. And then that partner decides to turn on you, to beat you up and your children. I don't think that is acceptable. The UN Women have actually gathered women across the world to discuss, not just women, activists across the world, to then say that this is a no, no, no. And in Spain, the activists have been at it to such an extent that at the beginning of the lockdown, there was a rise in violence against women, or domestic violence, but now it is again going down.
Oh, so there is some movement there.
There is some movement, particularly because government has intervened, and the ministry has intervened, and the gender activist has intervened, and everybody has intervened, because everybody says that we've got an enemy here that we cannot fight, which is the coronavirus. We cannot add ourselves as human beings to that enemy by having women now insecure in their houses, insecure in their streets.
Over the weekend, through the Department of International Relations, you posted a plea for people to stay at home, citing the fatal cases in Spain, including those of people you know, some in your office, who seemed okay beforehand. Why was it important to you to make this call?
It was important to me because I had the experience in Spain in the first few days when some of us, including myself, did not take the question of coronavirus very seriously. As I said in that video, I went out for a walk, and it was thanks to the police that I was brought back. And I realized over the days that this is very serious. It's a very vicious enemy. It's faceless. You do not know who has it, who does not have it. And this young person who died at my embassy had been sitting next to me 10 days before she died. And she had no flu, she had no signs that people keep on talking about. She had no signs, and 10 days later, she had passed on. And for me, what was also worse was the fact that her daughter is in Valencia, another city, and she's locked down there. And she could not come to bid her mother farewell. And her husband, in whose hands she had died, could not bid her farewell in a funeral. The only thing that he could receive were her ashes. And those ashes are still in his house because he was also on lockdown. He was also on isolation. What a sad way. And I thought that South Africans probably do not take this very seriously. And if somebody who's from that country, I was born in the rural areas, so I know the life that has been talked about imigidi, yasesilalini, about ukungena kwamakhwenkwe, about intlombe, all these things I know. I know the life of imikhukhu because I also grew up in imikhukhu. But finally, the responsibility is that of the individual. It does not depend on government. It does not depend on the next person. It depends mostly on what you do as an individual. Whether you think that ukoluka this month is more critical than the lives of people that will be going to Yom Kippur. Whether getting married today will make your partner love you more than he or she would love you if you were married in November. Whether if you prayed today in church, God will hear you better today in church than God could hear you in your private space or later on when you commune with all the others. I just thought We need to have a different approach to our lives. We cannot continue as usual, because if we continue as South Africans, the way I was observing, our country was heading for decimation of the country and the people. I was not only afraid for my children, for my family, I was just afraid, Desiree, I still am, for my country, because some of the reasons that are being put there are not reasons that should make us choose to go out in the streets rather than choose life. Our government, with all the structures, is doing everything, including the Solidarity Fund. We are doing as government and people the best, but a lot depends on the individual, on you and I, Desiree.
Ambassador Mthintso, just to end it off, we've spoken to some apartheid-era political prisoners about the lessons that can be learned from isolation in prison. With the lockdown now, of course, the circumstances are different. What are your thoughts on this conversation?
I think that one of the things that is now coming in handy for me is isolation under Terrorism Act, under all kinds of acts, because I can stay calm in the house. I can find a program. I do my work and I do my exercises, and I do a lot of dancing and singing to myself. I do a lot of talking to myself, which is what most of that I learned in prison. I don't think that people should have gone to prison, but you need to have some kind of self-discipline. The same kind of discipline that should keep you in the house should also keep in within yourself, being in love with yourself, being in commune with yourself. Of course, you need social systems too and social support, but I rely a lot on myself. I have to rely a lot on myself, but I rely on my support systems, on you and all the SABC radios and everything. But above all, Desiree, we have to be disciplined as individuals in South Africa. And also, this thing knows no class, knows no wealth, knows no gender, knows no mkuku, knows no urban area. It just kills.
Ambassador, thank you so much for talking to us this morning, and we hope you stay well and safe in Spain.